Hi guys, my name is Karthik and I am from executeautomation.com and welcome to part 15 of our TypeScript fundamentals video series. And in this video we'll be talking about type definitions with definitely typed and typings. So before watching this part, I would request you to watch part 14 since this part is going to be a continuation of that part. Alright, so let's get started. Definitely typed. Definitely typed is a repo used to get type definitions for all the packages, but currently its TSD is deprecated. So as we have already discussed in our previous video about all these repo like definitely typed, type definitions like typings and TSD of npm, the TSD is currently deprecated. So even if you try to install the TSD from npm install tsd-save, you will get an error as shown here. It says that the deprecated TSD at 0.6.5. So TSD is deprecated in favor of typings. So basically, as I already said in our previous video, typings is the most common way of getting the type definitions for the different third-party JavaScript libraries for TypeScript. So TSD is mainly deprecated right now. So we are not really going to discuss anything about type definitions of definitely typed in this particular video. We are going to directly jump into typings instead of discussing TSD. So typings is a simple way to manage and install TypeScript definitions. It uses typings.json file which can resolve to typings registry, GitHub, npm, bower, http, and local files. So the packages can use type definitions from various sources and different versions. So we have already discussed about typings a little bit in our previous video. We saw where the typings package manager is and how it is located. So let's see a quick demo in our existing project and see how to install typings for our project and how to work with the typings, type definitions, and get some reference for the different third-party JavaScript libraries. For this demo, we are going to make use of the Selenium WebDriver because we are focused more on automation testing, and in future videos of upcoming different courses with different topics, we will be using Selenium WebDriver a lot. So let's quickly see a quick sneak peek of Selenium WebDriver type definitions file and work with our existing project. So for that, I'm going to flip to Visual Studio Code. So this is the same project which we have been working so long in our video series. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to work with a third-party JavaScript library, as I already said. So for doing that, I am going to work with the, let's say, Selenium WebDriver. So for doing that, first of all, we need to get the Selenium WebDriver libraries itself. Only then we can make use of it, right? So only if we have the libraries, we can install the type definition files. So for doing that, you can do using the PowerShell, or within our Visual Studio Code, we have something called as terminal here, and it is actually running the PowerShell.exe. So we can make use of this terminal to perform the operation. And if you want, you can also add some additional terminals if you want. So I am going to work with the default PowerShell option. So you can see there are so many PowerShell consoles that you can bring in. So in order to install Selenium for our project, we have to do something like this: npm install, there is something called as Selenium WebDriver, and I want to install this locally, so I'm just going to use save, and I'm going to save this in dev folder location. So let's see what's going to happen. You can see that it is going to download the Selenium WebDriver for us from the internet, and then it is going to store the reference of Selenium WebDriver within our project. You can see that what else has happened here. So it has copied the Selenium WebDriver 3.3 for us in the TypeScript, and then it has also found that there is no package.json file, and this is something which I missed. So if you just try to refresh this particular file, you can see that we will have a node_module file, but we also need a package.json file in order for making these things to happen. So the first thing we have to do is, let me try to delete this guy. If you don't have that particular piece, then it is going to be a problem. So you can just do this: npm init-f. So this is going to create a JSON file for you, which is nothing but the package.json file. You can see based on the folder structure of the project, it is creating that. And once it is done, you can then install the Selenium WebDriver as usual, and that's going to perform the same operation what happened before. So this is the actual way. So first of all, you need to have a package.json file, so you can do that using the init option, and then you can perform the installation. So once the installation is done, you can see that dev dependencies is created, and there is our Selenium WebDriver. That's why I just gave the -save-dev. So based on the dev dependency, it is adding the Selenium WebDriver. And that is the reason this package.json file should also be there, right? So that's it, we have done that. And now let me try to refresh this project once again. You can see we have a node modules, and if you come down here, you can see we have a Selenium WebDriver with complete details here, right? And now if you try to use this particular file, you cannot use it directly until you have the typings file or the type definition files. So in order for doing that, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make use of typings. And again, if you just type typings and hit enter, you can see we have typings available in our local installation of the node. So that's the reason we don't get any error. Rather, we are seeing some information here on typings, right? So it is pretty simple and straightforward. You can just do what? Typings install, and we need the installation for our Selenium WebDriver. I know there is a Selenium WebDriver type definition as well. So I'm just going to do this, typings install Selenium WebDriver, and I'm going to just do save and hit enter. So you can see that it is resolving, and then it is going to add the dependency for me. And you can see there is a typings folder this time, and there is a typings.json file. You can see it has a registry of the npm, and then it is going to take that thing for me. And there is a modules. Within that, we have the Selenium WebDriver, and there is an index.d.ts file, and there is a typings.json file. This index.d.ts file is exactly the same thing that we saw before in our previous video series, this one. So as that said, everything is set right now. We have to make use of this particular file. So how to use this particular file? That's very, very simple again. So let's turn our attention back to the app.ts file. And since we have everything in the index.d.ts file, and it has a / reference file, remember the same thing that we used for our namespaces? The same thing it is, but the only change here is there is an extension of .d.ts file. That's the only difference between the namespace reference versus the d.ts extension. So I'm going to turn our attention to app.ts file, and then I'm going to say import. I'm going to say /, and here we can type the typings / you can just type modules / you can see that we are getting the Selenium WebDriver, but we need the index.d.ts file. Again, it is not going to be the import, but it is the /, right? So if we do like this, it is not going to really work out for now. So first of all, we need to add the reference. So for that, I'm just going to go over here. I'm just going to say ref, something like this, and you have to locate the particular file. So now for doing that, you have to do this /. You can see we have the typings, and then we have the index.d.ts file. So simple, right? So if you directly try to import, it is not really going to work. So you need to have a reference path for the index.d.ts file. Once it is added, then you can do your normal import statement here. Import star as WebDriver from, we can just give the path here. If you just open the double quotes and hit control space, you can see that we are getting the reference for the Selenium WebDriver this time, right? So cool it is. So now you can just give the Selenium WebDriver here, and now since we have used the star as WebDriver, which means we are going to completely take all the libraries within this WebDriver into this particular name, we can just call this WebDriver dot. You can see that we are getting all the different functions and properties within the particular WebDriver. So you can see here right? Similarly, you can see browser and dot, you can specify Firefox or Android or Chrome, Internet Explorer, Phantom.js. So everything is coming over here. So basically, based on these type definitions, the intelligence that you are getting right here is actually coming from this type definition files, and you can start using it for performing the automation activities, right? So this is the purpose of type definition, guys. Once again, this ends our basic fundamental course of TypeScript. So from our next course onwards, we'll start using the same essence of TypeScript to start automating the application using Protractor and Jasmine. Once again, thank you very much for watching this video and this complete video series, and have a great day.